You're live.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our City Council meeting. Today is Monday, December 15th, 2025. It's approximately 1 p.m. I'm Mayor Eric Enriquez. Before we start, I want to mention that we have an ASL, American Sign Language interpreter, available up in the front. If you all stand, we will join me. We'll start with a moment of silence for the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces as they protect our interests around the globe, as well as the courageous men and women of the Los Cruces Police and Fire Department that protect our city 24/7, 365. Councilor Coran, if you lead us in the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the first thing on our agenda will be presentations or recognitions. So at this time, we would like to recognize our counselors that this is their final meeting. And we'd like to start out with Counselor District 6, Yvonne Flores, if she'd come and join me. So, Councilor Flores, again, thank you for all your hard work, your dedication. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve with you. I thank you personally as the mayor of Las Cruces. And when I was assistant city manager and fire chief as well, Councilor Flores is always someone that we could count on and depend on and communicate with. And she's a good listener, and I've always appreciated that from her. So for the City of Las Cruces, Councilor Yvonne Flores, District 6, in recognition and appreciation of your dedicated community service in making Las Cruces a better place, November 13th, 2017 to December 31st, 2025. Thank you. Well, before I turn the mic over to Councilor Flores, I know there's some individuals in the guests that would like to recognize her with some recognition as well from the Southern Central Regional Transit. Yeah, we have Commissioner Manny Sanchez. David Armijo. Yeah, you can all come up.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Flores, we just want to say on behalf of myself as a chair of the South Central Regional Transit District Board and the rest of the South Central Regional Transit District team, we want to thank you for the dedication and support that you've given in your time as city councilor. One of the things that we've been able to do and I want to share with the folks has been not just, we've grown our South Central Regional Transit District service from not just within Doña Ana County. We are now serving into Sierra County now. We are fare-free along with the city of Las Cruces and Roadrunner, so anywhere you get on a bus here in Doña Ana County, it is free to ride. And just the growth of the network where we go all the way to Chaparral, and I think we've grown about 4 new routes since Councilor Flores joined us. But we wanted to give this award to her, which reads, in recognition of service for 5 years of dedicated leadership and service on the South Central Regional Transit District Board of Directors. Thank you for your commitment to our communities. So thank you, Councilor Flores.
Okay. Well, I'm really surprised and actually honored and quite moved. On the way over here, I thought, gee, I don't have to run any more red lights. And I have a big sign in the back of my car that says, don't stop me, I'm a city councilor, I rule. No. But seriously, there was definitely an element of sadness. And being here for a little over 8 years now, I can finally find my way around. But there's a sense of community here and family. And I really want to thank everybody up on the dais, the chief, David, Sonia, Cassie, Bill. I'm sorry, Patty, all of you. I'm really, really moved. I didn't expect to be moved. I felt when I was taking my shower this morning, I thought, geez, this is the last time I have to rush out and make it on time. I think that what is really amazing is that everyone on that dais, everyone, and I'm not going to say especially the city councilors, but we do take a lot of the brunt. And then the CCs go to the city manager and the mayor. So we let them take care of things when it comes to being insulted and criticized. I firmly believe in public service. I think I've shared with many of you that my father, in our little town of Santa Fe Springs in California, served as a planning commissioner, city councilor, and mayor for decades. And I never thought I would do it because I saw what he went through. But I just want to say that Las Cruces has been a wonderful place for me to live. Everyone I have met has become family, and everybody here, without a doubt. I mean, I've been around the block. It doesn't look like it, but I've been around the block several times, worked in different situations as a college professor, a substitute school teacher when my kids were little, and as an attorney. So I've met a lot of people, but I've never met so many people that are so wonderful in the city, here at City Hall, who are absolutely wonderful. I'm really moved. All I want to say is that I fell in love with Las Cruces, made it my home, and I'll be missing all of you. I'll be missing coming to City Hall and working out working on making this place even a better place. I want to say also that my two areas of deep commitment are the arts and children. And I want to thank Carol Bray for having a fantastic board, and Ceci Vasconcelos, who really do a fantastic job on bringing the arts and the museums to the children. And so it's a good combination with the schools. And I also want to say that the community schools, Becky Graham, Councilor Graham, and I have served the last 4 years. Before that, it was Councilor Gandara, and before that, it was Greg Smith. And it's thriving, and it continues to grow, and it's going to make the state of New Mexico even better, and our children are flourishing in those schools. So it's been an honor to serve on that board. I became involved with that in 2017, and it was finally became a reality in 2018, I believe. Anyway, before I fall down, because I'm really surprised at how moved I am. Again, thank you, each and every one of you, our constituents, my colleagues on other boards. It's been wonderful serving with all of you, and happy holidays. Thank you.
Next, we have Councilor Becky Graham. Here she is. Councilor Graham, thank you. Thank you for your hard work, your dedication, your commitment. Me personally, I can always say that there was two things that we always had in common, and that was the fire department and PAL boxing. I think a lot of things have transpired over at the PAL boxing gym, and Councilor Graham is a big part of it, is a big part of seeing kids from a group of 10 or 15 now to 40 or 50 on a daily basis. And that's because of your commitment to this community and to our youth in this community. So I thank you for all that. And so we have the plaque that reads, "In recognition and appreciation of your dedicated community service in making Las Cruces a better place, January 1, 2022 to December 31st, 2025. Congratulations." Can we get a photo? With your award.
I'm going to read off paper because I have a lot of feelings right now, too. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share a few thoughts at my final council session. What I can't do is call out by name every person who has made this experience one of the most, I can't look at you guys, one of the most impactful things I've ever done. There are too many of you, so I'm going to take a different approach. Since it's been clear that I'm really actually stepping down, I've had some of the most interesting conversations that I've experienced in the last 4 years. And one of the questions I'm commonly asked is, what have you learned? The most crucial thing I've learned is that the city is worth fighting for, but more importantly, it's worth caring for. It takes collective action from all of us together to preserve what's positive and to fix what's struggling. Too often, I see people coming here to fight one another rather than to fight for our community. And I see people limit who deserves care to those with whom they agree. But I also see us persevere. That perseverance has continually reaffirmed to me that in a cultural and political landscape where safety nets are shrinking or sometimes being destroyed altogether, local government matters more than ever. Those of us up on the dais matter, but even more so, it's the people who are working for and with the city every day in very visible ways and in spaces most of us never see. When we come together to advance programs and initiatives that help people afford and keep housing, to offset wage stagnation, to fill gaps in food programs, to provide spaces and resources that create opportunities for young people, to protect immigrant community members, it both lights me up inside and concerns me to think how easily things can go another way. I, at least, get to leave office feeling confident that the upcoming council will continue to take the role of local government as seriously as it deserves to be taken, to not shy away from the fight, and to always lead with care. Public service requires sacrifice from those who are elected and from those who surround and support us in our personal lives. Every person with whom I've served have made sacrifices of their time, their energy, and too often, their emotional well-being and personal safety. Even at the best of times, this job, if you care about it and give it the attention and dedication it deserves, is exhausting. Too often, it feels that community members who will disagree on principle with anything the council does use this space as a platform, not for productive change, but as a stage. I'm so glad the city live streams and records our meetings to make sure as many people as possible can keep up with proceedings, but it also serves as a social media content farm for those who seek not to lift the community, but instead to tear down the government. The fallout from those actions takes a toll on those who step forward to serve. I've thought a lot about that in the past months. My dad died 1 year and 2 days ago. His initial prognosis and response to treatment gave us cause for optimism, but as was his way, he was extraordinarily strong until he couldn't be. I've thought about his last summer and fall, and how many Phillies games I skipped watching with him because I was too tired or angry or overwhelmed by what was happening on council to have the energy. That spilled over into how I'm able to show up for my mom, who had her 50th wedding anniversary in June 2024 and had to let my dad go 6 months later. I know that many of my colleagues have found themselves in similar situations where the expected work and the unanticipated adversities of this job cut into your time with your family, your sleep, your other work, and your peace. I'm so grateful for what you do, both for the time that I've worked by your side and for what you'll continue to do when I step down. And that brings me to my final thank you, my biggest thank you, to the person in my life who has given up the most to get me here and make it possible for me to navigate my turn, and that's my husband, Mike Graham. Will you? Yeah, let him see you. Watching Mike serve our community with Las Cruces Fire Department was one of my primary inspirations to run for this seat. I wanted to give Las Cruces even a fraction of what he and his brothers and sisters give. While I'm not capable of answering the call as they do, I needed to find my own way of contributing meaningfully, and it's taken a lot. Mike was my boxing coach when I was fighting, and he knows me. He knows how to motivate me, how to energize me, and most importantly, how to calm me. When I decided to run for office, he stepped right back into that role. He knocked more doors and planted more yard signs and listened to more speech drafts than I had any right to ask him to. More importantly, when I won the seat and realized what public service truly entails, he listened to me grapple with policy, grieved with me during community tragedies, and told me over and over and over that I was working in good faith and I was succeeding, regardless of what they were saying on Facebook. A week from today, we'll mark our 23rd wedding anniversary. That's pretty much half of each of our lives. Mike, over all these years, you've proven so many times in so many ways that there's no one I'd rather have in my corner. Thank you forever for getting me through this and making it possible for me to fulfill my oath. That's all I have. Thanks again for giving me a chance to speak.
All right, well, again, thank you, Councilor Flores. Thank you, Councilor Graham. You'll be missed. And Councilor Graham, well, one more round. One more round. Okay, so next is Jobs of the Week. Sarah in?
Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor and councilors. For our very last Jobs of the Week of the year, of 2025. Oh, I'm Sarah Rainey, sorry, the one-stop coordinator for the Southwest Region of America's Job Center, New Mexico. For the Jobs of the Week, we have, for the City of Las Cruces, an HR and Management Analyst. That one starts at $30 an hour and closes on the 28th. We have a veterinary assistant also for the city, starting at $17.40 an hour, and at this time, it's a continuous posting. We have an account manager for La Casa Inc., starting at $65,000 a year and closes on the 24th. We have an oven operator, second shift for Stampede Meat, and actually Stampede Meat has a lot of openings right now. So if you're interested in those, check out our website on those. But this one closes on the 4th of January. We have for NMSU an admin assistant starting at $17.85 an hour and closing on January 7th, and a scheduler for alternative personal care in Las Cruces starting at $12 an hour, closes on the 25th. Just so you all know, we're all here. We have no other events going on this year. Of course, this year is drawing to a close, but we're always there in our office. The only day that we're going to be closed is Christmas Day, so we are going to be there with anybody that needs help with their resume, interview skills, changing things up, looking for a new job, anything that you're needing. So come by and see us at 226 South Alameda Boulevard. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Next is Pets of the Week. Carol?
Good afternoon. I'm Carol Nelson, Digital Content Specialist with the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley. This week, our dog of the week is Maddie, 92713. I found myself wandering in a field when I was just a couple of months old, and since then, I've been living at the shelter. Now that I'm almost a year old, I've grown into a loving helper dog. I'm a playful girl who's looking for a fun home where I can run, play, and grow even more. And oh boy, do I love belly rubs. But treats, that's where it's really at. I'm also getting better at helping other dogs feel comfortable. I recently made a new friend with a dog who needed some behavioral support. If you're looking for a compassionate companion who's bursting with love, come meet me. And this week we don't have a cat of the week because we have a good problem. All of our cats are getting adopted quite quickly, so we're happy about that. Yeah. And then other good news too, as I was presenting at last week's meeting, Finn actually went to rescue. So after 311 days at the shelter, he was rescued. So we're happy for him. But we still have other long-term residents who are available to adopt as well. Hulu, who's been with us 316 days now. Lemon Meringue, 278, and Farah, 271 days. So all really good options to adopt as well. Our upcoming events, this weekend, we will be at the Farmers Market from 10 to 1, and then the Saturday after Christmas, we will be at PetSmart from 10 to 1. So come on by, bring a friend who wants to adopt. And as always, for more information, feel free to visit our website or follow us on social media. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carol. Next is a conflict of interest. Does any member of the city council, city manager, or any member of the city staff have any known conflict of interest with any item on the agenda?
None, Flores.
None.
Mayor, City Clerk, I have to recuse myself. I believe it's item 7.5. My daughter is employed, Dr. Lauren Matisse, with the Amador Clinic, so thank you.
Next will be the public participation. Will allow up to 3 minutes, no pending litigation or items that are on the non-consent. And Katrina will help in ushering you to the podium. Again, please state your name and speak directly into the microphone.
Mayor, Council, those here today and those watching online, I'm Lynn Moorer. In the spirit of doing our civic duty and helping protect public health, we citizens have raised issues about the city's compliance with the lead and copper rule, pointed out deficiencies, always citing EPA guidance or other authority, and asked questions. Only one deficiency has been properly corrected that we know of. The inventory map now uses the appropriate symbol when at least one service line is unknown. However, no other deficiency or issue has been properly addressed that we are aware of, and none of our questions has been answered, nor has the Utilities Director explained how she thinks we're mistaken on any point. We've asked that answers to our questions be posted on the city's website. However, not one has been answered, either on the website or by any other method. Las Cruces Utility says it only looks in the meter box to determine the type of piping and uses no other techniques to investigate. By contrast, EPA recognizes that some piping may be lead-lined, lining which is not evident by just looking at the exterior of the pipe in the meter box. For example, EPA requires that a lead-lined galvanized service line be defined as a lead service line, which must be replaced. See handout 1. How can the city comply with this requirement if it doesn't use any technique capable of determining whether the piping has lining, and if so, what it's made of? The 6 licensed plumbers I've consulted say there could be lead-lined piping that the city is overlooking in its inspections because the only technique they're using is looking at the outside of the piping. It appears that the city's exclusive use of this inadequate pipe inspection technique is itself non-compliant with the rule, and it appears that it is leading the city to non-compliance with other aspects of EPA's requirements. These non-compliances could mean that lead that is unsafe at any level is being left to lurk throughout the city's piping and to harm the health of all of us, especially our children, our unborn children, and our seniors. This is unacceptable. Utility staffers' troubling pattern of failing to get the numbers right that I outlined for you on October 6th and on December 1st, then failing to acknowledge their mistakes honestly, appears to follow the city manager's example. His use of numerous euphemisms at the last meeting when explaining the city's failure to get the general fund numbers right came across as rather mendacious. Quote, "We had an overstatement in numbers," close quote. Quote, "There was a misalignment that affected our budget reserves," close quote. We're not expecting anyone to wear a hair shirt in penance, but we deserve straightforward honesty that mistakes were made and to hear specifically how they will be corrected. Evasive statements like the city managers do not denote honesty, nor do they engender trust. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Mayor, City Council, I'm Liz Rodriguez Johnson. We citizens have asked numerous questions of the city regarding our water piping citywide and how the city is implementing the lead and copper rule. We have asked that answers to our questions be posted on the city's lead and copper website. That hasn't happened. As I mentioned at a previous meeting, EPA does, in fact, expect water systems to engage meaningfully with the public and provide information about all aspects of their activities, particularly with respect to the rule. I have more questions today that Las Cruces Utilities has a responsibility to answer. To help the Utilities Department get going, we prepared a list of questions we've posed previously that need to be answered. Handout A also includes the new ones outlined today. We've also included on this list the 5 requests that we've made over the past year that are likely to improve the Utilities Department's customer service and its compliance with the rule. We again request that the department step up to its responsibilities and provide factual, complete answers to each of these questions and post them on the website. If the department doesn't know an answer to a question, it should just say so or research to find the answer. How far back do city records go in documenting the material used for water lines, both city-owned water pipes and customer-owned pipes? To what extent are Las Cruces utilities records for water pipes throughout the city digitized? Roughly what percentage of Las Cruces utilities water pipes records provide no information or unclear information regarding pipe material, including connectors? Roughly what percentage of Las Cruces utilities water pipe records provide no information or unclear information regarding installation date? Roughly how much will replacement of a service line that is lead or galvanized piping at a single-family residence cost? What is a reasonable price range? When and how often does Las Cruces Utilities sample drinking water in properties to check for lead and/or copper? Where are these results published? What happens if the action level of 10 parts per billion for lead or 1,300 parts per billion for copper is exceeded for any sample? Who gets notified and how soon? What actions are taken in response? Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dolores Lucero. As the calendar year is wrapping up, I wanted to come and thank Councilor Graham and Councilor Flores for your service to the city of Las Cruces. As one who knows how difficult it is, first of all, to put your name on a ballot and then fill your term at this dais, it is not at all what it looks like from this side of the room. It takes a lot out of you and disrupts whatever your normal life is. So I thank you from me to you, as I know how you will feel come January. I was not always the most supportive of all of your projects, but I can honestly say 9 out of 10 were satisfactory to me of your decisions. But I think putting differences aside today, I should publicly thank you. On a second note, I would like to give praise and support to Chief Story for the outstanding job he and his department are doing to work through the processes and lack of process that has affected our city. I know there was a disagreement about the presentation that was made by the chief at the Farm and Ranch, and what I saw was a leader wanting the best for the majority and safety of everyone. All of the council was invited, and I heard the mayor himself that night give full support of the presentation. Let me ask, have you ever thought what it must be like to walk into contentious situations several times a week where there are victims of domestic violence, vandalism, rape, stabbing, and who knows what else? I know that these officers arrive at the scene, have to take it home with them, and live it in their own lives as if it was happening to them. Just last week, I was able to visit with a victim after being stabbed almost to death while minding his own business, and now is afraid to be out at all. But he told me of the officers who arrived and have cared about him, rendering aid, and still continue to reach out every day. Remember, every incident, there will be always family and friends that are included in their situation. On a third note, as this budget is now 6 months old, just now, the city manager announces a, quote, math error to the tune of millions without a word to the public beforehand. Until the media reported the situation is not acceptable, Mr. Manager. Although you have capable staff, you are the one that is responsible to know what is happening all around and your obligation to be transparent to the public. The buck literally stops with you. Today, I ask the City of Las Cruces residents to join me in a vote of no confidence in your ability to safely and physically lead our city into the future. Thank you.
Mayor, Council Juan Garcia. First off, I'd like to thank Councilor Graham and Flores for their service to our community, and I wish them the best in their whatever comes next. At the last council meeting, the MPT, Mayor Pro Tem, was clearly irritated that Chief Story dared to, quote, share his priorities with a community group. So borrowing her own words, let's hash this out in the open, since that's what we should do. I appreciate the chief's willingness to show up, whether it's this morning's presentation to the Legislative Task Force or his regular appearances at CCIA meetings and other public forums. He's not just visible, he's transparent, giving the community straight answers about the crime problems we're up against. Now it's up to the legislators who have failed in the past to actually respond. Recent headlines in the local news, and I quote, Las Cruces sees drop in juvenile arrests, rise in violent crime severity. However, he, DA Macias, noted that the legal process is more complex due to the offender's ages, requiring a judge's determination that are not amenable to juvenile treatment. Does this really make sense? The reality is our political and judicial system, along with the breakup of the traditional family, has failed the community. The real divide isn't between the council and LCPD. It's between the council, the community, and the victims that are frustrated by the lack of pursuit of real deterrence and consequences. I'm glad the issue of juvenile crime and repeat offenders is now considered in the city's legislative priorities. And I continue, given that this is a public matter, we should discuss. Albuquerque Journal editorial takes issue with trial lawyers lobbying group. Quote from yesterday's editorial in the Albuquerque Journal. The ABJ editorial raises concerns about a trial lawyers lobbying organization. To clarify, there aren't any allegations of wrongdoing. Still, similar articles have called attention to the fact that a current counselor and Mayor Pro Tem, Johanna Bencomo, is serving as the executive director of NMSOP. The piece states, and I quote, this being the group which is funded primarily by plaintiff attorneys, speaks forcefully against reforming the state's medical malpractice laws. It's not good optics. The distinction between a public official and the head of a lobbying group actively resisting malpractice reform, which is a major crisis in New Mexico, is extremely blurry and frankly concerning. The Mayor Pro Tem should consider resigning from her position as a counselor. Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I, like many other citizens, Leticia Sanchez Freeman. I, like many other citizens of this community, were very concerned with comments made by Mayor Pro Tem and Councilor Bencomo at the end of last week's City Council meeting. Councilor Bencomo, you stated that, quote unquote, it felt really concerning that Chief Story had a meeting with citizens groups specifically about his own legislative priorities, and that, quote unquote, there appears to be a rift between council and LCPD. But yet, you also go on to say that, quote unquote, we need to have these public conversations. So what you're saying is that it's okay to have these public conversations in city council chambers, but it's not okay for the chief to speak to a group of concerned business owners and citizens? Last year, the Neighborhood Watch Captains Group asked him, the chief, to address us before the special legislative session that occurred in July. He educated us so we in turn could write or call our legislative representatives and demand change. Obviously, based on your rationale, Councilor Bencomo, you would seem to have a problem with this. Why would you have a problem with concerned citizens being educated and writing to their legislators and demanding change to address the crime in this community? This makes absolutely no sense. other than maybe you want to be the one to control things, to control the conversation. Next thing you know, you won't allow him to have town halls without you, which actually isn't a bad idea given that I've seen other counselors at his town halls, but not you. Maybe you should attend and have those public conversations with concerned citizens. After the Neighborhood Watch Captains meeting in April, I sent each member of the council, including the city manager, the briefings by each of the captains about the crime in their area. Did you bother to acknowledge, much less respond, and have a conversation with us about our concerns? No, you didn't. If there is a rift between LCPD and City Council, it certainly isn't because of Chief Story. He has sat through countless council meetings listening to the anti-police group call him out for doing his job and calling him and LCPD murderers on top of that. Chief Story has gone above and beyond to do something positive to address the crime and bring attention to this problem that is destroying this community. You should be grateful instead of calling him out for it. Thank you.
Howdy, my name is Lonnie Montgomery, and I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And Mr. Mayor, Council, I want you to know God loves you, and I love you too. And if we haven't done away with prayers in here, I would like to have one, please. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the council, and we ask that you send blessings down on them with wisdom and discernment, that they can do their jobs to their best of ability and to the best of for the citizens of Las Cruces. Amen. But today, I have a report in the riffraff. It's on U.S. history. The history of the United States did not begin in 1619, because that was when some slaves were brought to America. Slavery had been in America long before 1619. The Native Americans fought each other and enslaved each other long before Europeans came in and discovered America and explored it. And they came in and they brought religion to the people here from Spain and other areas, and they intermarried with the Native Americans, producing the Pueblo Chicanos, the students that I taught in ZIA in the 1980s and 1990s. These explorers have contributed greatly to the history of America, but they did not create the country. The U.S. was established in the eastern part of America on the latter part of the 18th century. They did this by writing the Declaration of Independence, separating the 13 colonies from England, and with the help of God, getting through the Revolution and writing the Constitution by which we govern our government. And they set up a republic by writing a Constitution, gave us certain rights. And today happens to be the anniversary of the addition of the Bill of Rights to the Constitution. December 15th, 1791, they gave them these amendments. They were the number 1 amendment: Congress shall not make a law respecting establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So that gives us this free speech, and that gets us to, we can speak to anyone we want. And that includes our police chief. He does not have to go before the council and get permission to speak to his constituents about what he wants and needs and what he's doing to help the people here in Las Cruces. And I want to thank him for doing that. And I want to thank the counselors that have been here and have contributed to the city of Las Cruces. And may you have a happy life after that. Thank you. God bless you. God bless us. And God bless America. Thank you.
Mark Veith. To continue on what he brought up about slavery, we became a nation in 1776 for our independence. In 1800, every nation in the world had slavery. Every nation in the world had slavery. So we didn't invent it. And he had all good points there. He knows his history. I'm here because I watched a video of a guy that was criticizing Chief Story for doing his job. I don't know what kind of fool would criticize a government employee for doing his job. If he brought criticism, it should have been that there is a lack of justice being done in this city and a lack of support for Chief Story. Chief Story is a Marine. They're taught to win, they're taught to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And he's done that. Well played, Chief. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and I am that fool. My name is Lucas. I am a resident of District 2, and I am here once again to complain about Chief Story continuing to act in a partisan manner under which, by his job as an employee of the City of Las Cruces, he is not allowed to. Last time I brought it up under the state ethics, and I will continue to bring that up because I do believe it violates that. But I did a little bit more digging, and specifically under the City of Las Cruces Employee Work Rules Procedure, Section 600, subsection 603, line 24, employees shall not engage in unapproved soliciting or any partisan political activity while on the job. This morning, Chief Story testified, big air quotes, in front of a partisan panel of Republicans from the New Mexico House Republican Party and New Mexico Senate Republican Party. That is important to know. This was not an official legislative act. The New Mexico legislature did not convene this meeting. This was a meeting convened by the Republican Party of New Mexico for their House and Senate members of their own volition. And if you don't believe me, listen to what they said over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many times I heard it this morning. They said, this may be a partisan panel, but gun violence is not a partisan issue. And you know what? I happen to agree with them. I agree with them on that point. On both of those points. It was a partisan panel, and the chief was there, speaking on behalf of our city. So these people can believe whatever they want. They can think that he's advocating for them. He is not advocating for me, or my friends, or my family, who believe that him being a Marine and militarizing this police and posting things on Veterans Day with all of the military that have taken over our police force is actually something pretty freaking terrifying.
Yeah, I object to that vulgarity. That's not right. There's children that watch this video.
Councilor Matisse, yeah.
Please.
It's noted at the beginning on our headlines all the time.
Noted. The fact that the vulgarity of a word potentially harms certain people's ears more than the sense of violence enacted by the police towards the citizens of this city that he is supposedly supposed to represent. As I have brought up time and time again, this state is the most violent state for citizens when it comes to police violence being murdered by the police. That's statistics. You don't have to agree with me. You can't disagree with the numbers. If you're a citizen in this state, you are more likely to be killed by the police than if you lived in any other state. That is a fact. It's also a fact that you have, as a city, rules on the books prohibiting employees from participating in partisan politics while on the job. That happened today. I don't know what you want to do about it. Do something.
My name is Lisa Parrott. I'm a resident of District 6. Thank you, Councilor Flores, for representing our district. And Merry Christmas, everyone. I came to talk about the two meetings that were referred to in the work session last week. I attended both of those meetings, and Chief Story did nothing but present the criminal statistics of the city and areas that he felt could be improved by the state legislature, including competency. I attended this morning part of the juvenile justice reform task force that was so objectionable, supposedly, and I just thought it was interesting that the governor had her own cabinet secretary, Honorable Jason Bowie, who is the cabinet secretary for the New Mexico Department of Public Safety. She allowed him to attend that meeting today, so it must not have been too partisan. So I thank you, Chief Story, for what you and your department are doing, and God bless you.
My name is Craig Charnoff. I was here a year ago. I want to talk on two issues. One has to do with your rezoning meeting and the change of the ordinances and the decision to increase density. It has more or less taxed the infrastructure of this city to a degree where it's falling apart. Look at our streets. Look at Sonora. Look at Roadrunner. Look at Loman. Look at Sonoma. The traffic that's being exercised from Metro Verde, where the increase in density is most impactful, is destroying things. The East Mesa is deteriorating. That's one of your highest areas of tax and one of the wealthiest other than Picacho, which may be out of the city limits. The second issue, Chief Story, you know what? He's the best thing to happen to this city in 15 years. You know, hands down. The man, if he had the budget, he could have the resources. The police would have raises. We would be a destination for police officers to be. It would be an improvement. We're the second largest city in New Mexico, and yet we act like we're number 300. I mean, the poverty level, the interest, give the man what he needs so that he can operate efficiently. He's doing the best thing he can with what you give him, budget-wise. You've hamstrung him. Support him. Don't fight him. The last police chief retired inadvertently. This guy takes an interest. He takes a genuine interest in what's happening, where it's going. He has no control over what our state legislature mandates. As far as punishments, the legal system is broken in this state. They slap hands. The penalties are not severe enough, you know, to make an impression that sticks with people, that makes them think about it. Crime is down. Immense crime is up. The youth of this county is out of control. All we seem to be interested in are new dispensaries, tax money, and irrelevant facts that the citizens really don't care about. Help us improve this city. Don't drag it down. Improve upon it. Support that man. give him what he wants, give him what he needs.
Good afternoon, City Council, Mayor. Diane Starbuck, for the record. I would like to address 2 items today. The first one is a thank you to Councilors Graham and Flores for your service, especially for your support with the revised animal ordinance. We appreciate that. The second item is there has been a lot of criticism of the police, usually by the left. I would like to say not everyone on the left is against the police. Every encounter I have had with the police has been polite, professional, considerate, even when I have been protesting. I encourage anyone to sign up for the Citizens Police Academy, which I've heard there's some advertisement that they're starting a new one, where you will learn many things, including the many situations that the officers have to deal with and the many changes that Chief Story has made to improve the department. Thank you, Chief Story, for your continued leadership. I beseech the community to tone down the rhetoric at a time when we really need to be working together. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City Manager, and staff. My name is George Pearson. The United States Department of Transportation has announced a notice of funding opportunity for build grants with a total of $1.5 billion available. These grants are intended for large projects with awards of up to $25 million for a project. I hope the city will take advantage of this opportunity. An ideal application would look at reconstructing El Paseo. We've already spent over $1 million in planning efforts in the El Paseo corridor. The MRA process identifies the need for safety improvements for bicyclists and pedestrians. This looks like we are someplace where the city can take some action and move towards Vision Zero to make Las Cruces a safer community. The deadline for applying for the build grant is February 24th, so it's something that the city will have to move on quickly. Even if we may not have a successful application, going through the process can result in feedback that can make a future grant application successful. Let's not miss this opportunity like we have missed other opportunities such as TAP, RTP, and TPF. Thank you.
Mayor Enriquez, Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, City Councilors, my name is Donald Wilson. I'm the current president of Velo Cruces. We are a bicycling and pedestrian advocacy organization that was founded 10 years ago in Las Cruces. 2 years ago, in October of 2023, we sent a letter to the former mayor asking that the city of Las Cruces adopt a Vision Zero target of the year 2035 and join the Vision Zero network. In November of that year, we made this request official during a public comment session similar to this one today. Since then, we have approached the City Council during public comment sessions and renewed this request on at least 4 occasions. I'm here today once again to request that the City of Las Cruces join countless other government entities in adopting a Vision Zero target and joining the Vision Zero network. The City of Las Cruces owns most of the roads within the city limits. These roads should be safe for all road users, those in vehicles, those on foot, those on bicycles, and also for the many public employees that work on the roads. This is an equity issue for the residents of Las Cruces. In communities like ours, it's not unlikely, it is likely that 30% of the population does not own or operate a motor vehicle. In order for these residents to get around the community, they need access to safe roadways for walking and cycling and expanded public transportation. A Vision Zero target becomes the framework for driving an improvement in road safety. At Velo Cruces, we think the goal for the city should be 0 road user deaths. The state of New Mexico adopted a Vision Zero target through their Target Zero initiative for all the roads owned by the state of New Mexico. Please add this to the agenda of a future work session and go on record that roads in Las Cruces should be safe for all users. Thank you for listening and for your continued service to the residents of Las Cruces.
Good afternoon. My name's Jim Hurst. This city had a tradition of a National Day of Prayer ceremony here on the city council or the city hall grounds. As far as I've been able to determine, there were no permits pulled. There was no procedure. It was simply something we did. I think it was informally sponsored by the city. In any case, I have a group, and I meet with a group, and last year we had a Day of Reason ceremony on the City Hall grounds. There is no standard procedure for reserving these grounds. As a secular group, we should have no more restrictions for getting permission to use these grounds as the religious group did, unless you want to acknowledge that the tradition of a religious ceremony on these grounds was unconstitutional. If you want to say that their meetings were unconstitutional, then you can impose a new order on other groups that want to meet here. But unless you want to say that the traditions were unconstitutional, then you cannot institute new rules that place more burdens on secular groups for using these grounds. Second issue, Chief Story is a police chief. He's a city employee. He's not a sheriff. He has no political office and he should have no political influence. He's not elected. If you want to elect the police chief, then we have a different situation. But right now, he's not elected. He has no more authority politically than I do. He's simply another citizen, and actually he's even more restricted because he's an employee. Issue number 3. Our president has made the word fuck part of our political parlance. You may not like it, but he has. We have freedom of speech when we come here. We can use common political parlance. It is protected. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. My name is Dan Romero. I'm a resident of Las Cruces. My concerns are the dialogue that Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo stated during the December 8th, 2025 meeting at 2:37 p.m. The statement that the Mayor Pro Tem discussed was slanderous to Chief Story. She should be censured for the comments she made about a public employee that she has no governance over. Mayor Pro Tem attempted to call out the actions of Police Chief Story's meeting with the citizens group. I attended that meeting, and that was discussed by the Mayor Pro Tem. Chief Story gave out statistics about crime in Las Cruces, spoke of the increase in crime by teenagers, 18 years and younger. He never advocated for any policies. He only gave numbers about crime and spoke of the police department's work working in the community and neighborhoods where burglaries have occurred. When burglaries occurred, within 48 hours, they come back. Didn't know that. Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo has put the city in a possible hostile work environment by her comments. From my understanding, not only was the police chief Story invited, but all council members were invited to the event. Only the police chief attended, and his comments were well received. As a prior elected official, there are comments that are not allowed by any council member, especially pro tems and mayors, that violate the rules. They should never publicly just comment about a public employee. That employee works for the city manager. All the public employees don't work for the council. There is only one person in charge of the employees. That is the city manager of this city. Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo should have sensitivity training due to her comments toward the police chief Story, and she should make a public apology to the chief Story and the residents of Las Cruces. Your position as council members and the mayor are nonpartisan positions. You didn't get elected for your national politics. You got elected because you serve the community. Please check your national politics at the front door when you come into this facility. You represent all residents, not a small amount. You should be talking about the budget instead of talking about Chief Story. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Daniel B., and thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to give public comment. As a resident of our city, I just wanted to state publicly my support of Chief Story for the great job he is doing. Thank you.
Next is the acceptance of agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is on the motion to accept the agenda as presented. Councillor McClure?
Yes.
Councillor Matisse?
Yes.
Councillor Graham?
Yes.
Councillor Coran?
Yes.
Councillor Flores?
Yes.
Councillor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes. Item 7.1, resolution number 26-078, a resolution authorizing a real estate purchase between City of Las Cruces and Little Tumbleweed Rentals.
Move to approve, Graham.
Second, Corin.
Go ahead, Bill.
Good afternoon, Mayor Council. Bill Ham, Economic Development Department for the record. This item pertains to a sale of city-owned property to Little Tumbleweed Rentals, LLC. The property in question is located near the intersection of Baton Memorial and Jornada North. And it is shown here, it is outlined in red. That's the city property. The potential buyer is the adjoining property highlighted in yellow. That is presently the Little Tumbleweeds daycare facility. And you can see how the Tumbleweeds property generally kind of wraps around the city tract. So the city property is approximately just shy of 6,500 square feet. It was a former utilities water tank storage facility. Records show that tank was decommissioned and removed from the site probably at least 3 decades ago. And so it's sat vacant and unused since. And the city has no foreseeable current or future use for the property. It's a site view facing north towards, you can see the daycare there to the right. City properties there, that dirt lot. So we did obtain a fair market value appraisal. It came in at $23,000. The negotiated purchase price is $23,000. Buyer will be responsible to replat the property into the adjoining Tumbleweeds property. Buyer will also pay all closing costs as part of the transaction, as well as surveying costs, which pertains to the replat. Per resolution 02125, the city will pay a 6% commission to the buyer's representative broker. So staff recommends the sale of the city tract to eliminate city liability, get it into productive use, and to put it on the tax rolls. And if you look at this thing, really the only viable user for that parcel is the adjoining property of the daycare. So with that, every standard council options, and I'll stand for questions. I also have the buyer and buyer's representatives here as well available. So.
All right, thank you, Bill. Any questions from council? Councilor Flores.
Yes, thank you. Would you please explain the relationship between the Little Tumbleweed Rentals and the current proposed or potential purchaser?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, Councilor Flores. Little Tumbleweeds Rentals LLC is where title is held to the facility, the daycare facility. That's just what's on their deed. And so that's their LLC that is actually owner of the property, but it is the operator of the daycare. Yes, ma'am.
So there is a daycare center there?
Yes, ma'am.
And then
Yes, ma'am.
what is the potential use of that land if it's sold?
My understanding is they're looking at expanding parking and putting a ponding, on-site ponding.
Putting a what?
On-site ponding, storm runoff.
Oh.
Ponding.
Ponding. And how, so it's not to expand the daycare center, it's just to expand the parking for the daycare center?
That is my understanding, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I can ask the buyer's representative to come up here and speak if he has more information about that, if you'd like.
To the use. So when someone buys a parcel of land, are they held to the representation, what the purchase, purpose is for that land use?
Well, once Councilor Flores, once the buyer obtains the property, they're allowed to do whatever with it that complies with zoning laws and standards.
So long as it falls into
yes,
the
ma'am.
parameters of that zoning.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Correct.
I have one specific question and then one just general statement. I'll start with the general statement, which is I love us selling off every empty lot that we have to people who will use it. So I generally just want to say, please let us always be thinking about ways that we can do that. But the specific question is, when we purchase a property, we have to have 2 appraisals. But when we sell it, we only have to have 1. And I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about what the difference is or why that exists. Or I'm not questioning this transaction specifically. I guess I'm just questioning. I think it might be useful for us to always have a secondary appraisal from my perspective when we sell properties. Or if you can talk about why that is, why that difference exists.
Yes, ma'am. Councilor Coran. The municipal code, I believe it's section 2-1313, calls for, it has tiers of property values and what appraisals are required. So anything that we obtain or sell in excess of $150,000 requires the 2 appraisals. Less than 150, then you're looking at the 1. And then actually, I think, I'm certain, yes, that below $10,000, no formal appraisal is required. So that's, yeah, municipal code 2-1313.
That is extremely helpful. Thank you so much. I
Yes,
really
ma'am.
appreciate your knowing what the deal is. So thank you.
Anyone else? Good. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 26-078. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Coran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.2, resolution number 26-079, a resolution dedicating city-owned property located at 1701 East Nevada Avenue.
Move to approve. Graham.
Second.
When you're ready, Kevin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, and city managers. My name is Kevin Wilson. I'm with Housing and Neighborhood Services. Today, I bring before you a resolution in order to dedicate a city-owned property to the Affordable Housing Land Bank. Little background on this is 1701 Nevada, 1701 Nevada, is an approximate three-quarter acre parcel purchased by the city in 2019 as part of the Nevada Cool Corridor project. In review of past meeting minutes, possible uses for the land were listed. However, no formal plans were ever developed. We have some of those on the slide there for your reference. This picture shows the vacant land, which is within a single-family residential neighborhood. The land has never been developed upon. And we've presented this picture to show that it is approximately under 1/4 of a mile to a major city park. The resolution asks the council to dedicate the land to the Affordable Housing Land Bank. At this time, it currently does not generate any tax-related revenue. Staff has reached out to various departments and learned of no identified need or developmental plans. And if not approved, the city will continue to retain ownership of this property until another use is identified. The Affordable Housing Land Bank is a vehicle for the city to bank land for future development, or if the property is sold, the proceeds can be transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for future projects. Our land bank has several priorities. Some examples of this are the creation of safe and decent affordable housing within Las Cruces, promoting home ownership for low and moderate income residents, and developing non-productive land within the city to productive tax-generating property. The current zoning of the property is NH-1U. This designation allows all of these listed uses within the zone. The potential uses of this parcel being considered by the Affordable Housing Land Bank are highlighted on here, and they are all housing related. Council has the standard options for deciding upon this resolution, and I stand for questions at this time. I'd also like to note that staff members from Sustainability, Community Development, and Parks are here to answer any questions directly related to their departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions? Councilor Flores?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Wilson, for your presentation. What is the feasibility, is there a tentative plan for the development of affordable housing?
At this time, we've researched a number of different options. We just know that it would be housing related. We would like to put single-family residences there if approved, but we don't have any specific designs or plans at this time.
Well, with Miss Natalie sitting there, I would venture to say that there are probably some possibilities.
We do have possibilities, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, we are working with community development on a potential conceptual plan for this property. Our goal is to do a pilot project of entry-level housing where it's small style or small format homes. Not quite tiny homes, but still sort of meeting that threshold where families can purchase it, build equity, build wealth, and then transition or add on to the house. We're using a Strong Towns model. I don't know if it's a planning concept firm that does best practices in housing development and community development.
And what surrounds that piece of land? Is it more land or is there development? Oh,
It is surrounded, let me do the closer one. It's surrounded on all sides by single-family residential housing.
oh, it is residential. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you,
Thank
Councilor
Bill.
Flores.
And thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor McClure.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask a question if there was any community engagement for this process right here.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor McClure, for the specific transfer of the property to the land bank, there was no community engagement, very similar to the action that council took before with the utility land tank. It doesn't require community engagement.
Yeah, I'm disappointed by this process. I'm curious if any residents made it out to this meeting, because I'm sure a lot of them made it out to the planning and zoning, where this did not pass. This was actually brought up, and I am a big fan of housing, but I'm a better fan of sticking to what we promised residents to do, which was in that resolution, which actually you voted on, Councilor Flores. I think it was one of your first meetings. And it was reaching out to the community to ask them what they wanted to see there. And they had came and brought that up. And we didn't do that. And that's why Planning and Zoning, to a large degree, knocked it down. So I'm a little irked, the idea that we're bringing this up without having any community engagement. I think there are plenty of different ideas we can do, and I would very much like to see community engagement on this one specifically.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor McClure, so I did reach out to some of the staff that worked on this when the initial acquisition took place, and so there was some community engagement around that time. I was told that there was even a winter block party, but I wasn't able to find documentation of that. My understanding from the former staff that worked on this and some of the community members that worked on this is that the Nevada Cool Corridor project in its entirety was contentious, and so they started the community engagement process and decided to not do anything with the property.
I think there was some engagement with Doña Ana Communities United. There was a lot of the conversation. I went back and looked at the minutes for that day. And we had some really outspoken members. There was a quote from one of our artists, Meg Freyermuth, who said, hey, an empty lot does not really ensure pride in our neighborhood. How does that actually work? So there was no engagement. So we're trying to do this, and I'm just a little irritated that it's being sold to us as an idea to do something with it that the community had a plan for, and that past council had a plan for, and we're just disregarding that. So, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you both. Natalie, I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more to, I generally had questions about the land bank and trust fund. Can you tell us the status on both of those? Just like numbers, and do you have those in front of you?
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, so the land bank has been in existence 2009. Don't quote me on this, but I think there's 6 or 7 parcels in that land bank. Some of the more notable ones would be the Sierra Summary property next to Sierra Middle School that we transferred to Tierra del Sol for development. We also took, I guess it's technically not in the land bank, but we took the property that was originally intended for centralized kitchen for senior programs and turned that into Paseos Verdes. And then there's some NAP properties that we acquired when the neighborhood action liened and demoed and foreclosed on those liens. Those came into the land bank. And then there was one that was part of next door to Angel Care that became the driveway for Three Sisters apartment complex. So that was actually used, while not directly for the housing on that property, it helped facilitate the development for housing.
And then what about the trust fund does have some funds in it, right? Do you have those?
Correct. The trust fund is currently sitting at about $730,000 in, I would call it unrestricted funding. And then there is about 4.7 left over from the general obligation bond, but that has already been committed to projects.
Okay, thank you. And then just a question about the neighborhood, if you can go back to that very zoned out one. So I know that there's some like immediately single family, but there are, like this general area does have some mixed, right? Like there's some apartment complexes and things like that in the surrounding area.
Yes, Mayor, Councilor Picomo. Very familiar with the area. It's kind of my original stomping grounds of life. And while the direct adjacent properties and streets are all single-family housing, there is some multifamily housing and rental housing, specifically rental housing adjacent to the park, and as we get closer to Solano Drive. But within the actual neighborhood there, I'm not aware of any.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug.
Councilor Flores?
I actually have a question for my colleague. Is that appropriate?
Yes, that's fine.
Only
You
if
can
what?
ask more.
Oh, no. So, Councilor McClure, what exactly is your objection to this? Isn't
That it was specifically given a resolution and a council mandate to have community benefit for this. And we could do a couple different options. We could do the AARP, you know, how we have those exercise stage. Those options weren't discussed with the community. But it was told to us to do this as a resolution. You voted on that too. So we're basically saying.
When did I vote on that?
That was in January 22nd, 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
But it's
Wow.
on it's in the minutes, so.
Okay, so it sounds to me that there is something that would impede any action. Based on what Councilor McClure has said, it seems like it would preclude us from moving forward on this without.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, the resolution only called for the property to be purchased. There are this language in the background language. So in the whereases, it did call for some temporary tactical urbanism projects or small-scale temporary community spaces as part of the Nevada Cool Corridor. Like I mentioned, they had some sort of winter block party, and they were holding neighborhood meetings all as part of the Nevada Cool Corridor. And so there was initial discussions about what the potential uses would be. And similarly, staff also reviewed the minutes, and so there was discussion about trees and barbecue grills, potential, former mayor said no basketball courts because I guess the balls make noise. We did reach out to our parks team to do an assessment on this site, and they're also in the audience. They determined that this site was not a viable candidate for inclusion.
It's not a candidate for what?
For inclusion in their park inventory. Based on their current master plans, it doesn't meet their minimum park sizes, so the recommended park size is at least 3 acres. This is 3/4 of an acre, and it's fairly small, and there's already a neighborhood park nearby. But I'm happy to bring parks up if that'll help.
Well, I'm still, maybe legal could address the concern that Councilor McClure has brought up.
Let me add one more thing. In this, it says once purchased, city staff will develop a 1-year contract facilitated planning services that engage residents in a series of small-scale projects to create temporary community spaces to allow residents ideas for various uses and refine plans. So if we continue doing this as it is, they're not going to have that. But we promised them that. And that's how you erode trust.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor McClure, my understanding is that staff did do some of that work. I had trouble contacting that staff. Lisa is very much enjoying her retirement, so I wasn't able to get a hold of her. I was able to get a hold of the former director of Doña Ana Communities United and get some historical perspective from her. Again, the sentiment or what she shared with me was that the project as a whole, all of Nevada Cool Corridor, became too contentious, and the staff at that time decided to proceed no further with development. And to remind the rest of the council, at that time, sustainability lived within economic development, and that was 2 or 3 directors ago and 2 or 3 city managers ago. So we had trouble piecing together all of this information because our retention schedule is well past. So we identified this project in September in our conversations with Mr. Remalley and Gary Ewing, who's also in the audience today. They had initially designed some townhome concepts for another property, but that property is already being used for Paseos Verdes. And so we started looking at city-owned land for potential development and identified this one. So we asked our land management to reach out to the various departments to see if there was a use or intended use for this parcel, and those departments responded that it wasn't within any of their development plans, and they weren't interested in moving forward with any development. So we identified it as a potential.
So all the steps you've taken are consistent with meeting the mandate or the conditions that Councilor McClure has raised or identified?
Staff believes so.
But community members, do they believe that?
I'm sorry, what?
Do the community members believe that? And at planning and zoning, it didn't seem so.
I think, if I may, Mr. Mayor, and Ms. Martinez and Mr. Wilson, and Councilor McClure, given that there appears to be a conflict insofar as the steps that have to be taken before there's any further action on that property, perhaps legal can look at visit this, and then we can bring it back.
Councilor Flores, thank you. Let's let our city attorney speak at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Brad Douglas for the record, and sorry about that. I was knee-deep in the children's code while you all started discussing this item, and then I heard my name, and there was a moment of panic that has passed since then. So, and looking at the prior resolution, just real briefly, I don't see this parcel as being encumbered or restricted at this time based on the language of the prior resolution.
I think, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilor Flores.
What exactly is your opinion on this? It's an opinion.
Well, my vote's going to be no. I mean, I guess that's my opinion. So my vote is going to be no on this one. But my opinion is I wish we would have spoken to, and listening to them, or reading the minutes, because I didn't listen to them, reading the minutes, that was an engagement, the process that we wanted to do with we being the council in the past. So following the spirit of the idea that we wanted to work with the community residents.
Well, I'm just trying to, first of all, this is not a due process issue, but that's more of a legal term. But your opinion, I'm really conflicted because I think that if it wasn't brought forward, as Councilor McClure has pointed out, we would at least need a legal opinion to move forward to say that it was okay or not okay to do so.
I think he did say it was okay.
And you just said that it wasn't. Okay, so we'll move forward.
Okay, seeing no other questions, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 26-079. Councilor McClure?
No.
Councilor Matisse?
No.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next is item 7.3, Council Bill number 26-011, ordinance number 3103, an ordinance adding Chapter 16 to Article 12, short-term rentals to Las Cruces Municipal Code.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Go ahead, Chris.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm trying to figure out what I did to, there we go. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Favor, Community Development Director for the record. Today we are looking to approve the ordinance for short-term rentals. And in a nutshell, what we're trying to do is set requirements that those who are doing short-term rentals apply for a business license with the city so we can have a better inventory of exactly how many we have in the city and have better communication with those property owners. So in short, what is a short-term rental? Dwelling rented out intended to not be a permanent residence, but listed on third-party websites such as Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, those types of things. And this does exclude hotels, motels, and B&Bs. Excuse me. Why do we want to regulate? So I think there's several reasons why. Ensures integrity and safety within the neighborhood. We are seeing some growth in this market. Las Cruces isn't a huge short-term rental market like some other destinations like maybe Santa Fe or other places like that, but there we are seeing an uptick. Also trying to balance some of the property rights with the neighborhood quality of life. We do get some complaints from time to time, and having this ordinance in place would help sort of get everybody on the same page and regulate some of those concerns. There are several other municipalities in New Mexico that have gone this direction, and Doña Ana County did adopt an ordinance a few years ago. Currently, there's 483 houses listed on third-party websites, but only 83 of them have taken the time to register with Visit Las Cruces through their process. So the idea here is to close the gap between those who are using those services and those who are following our regulations and ensure that we have compliance from all short-term rental operators. So what we're looking to do is require a business registration through community development, and also make that available, similar to when you walk into a business to see that they are regulated by the city. There'd be a requirement for insurance for each of them for liability coverage. This would also ensure compliance with building and fire code, and that's the other part of this that makes this real important is when we get the business registrations, we can then work with the staff at the fire department to send inspectors out to inspect the property and make sure that they're safe from a fire standpoint. We will require neighborhood notifications, and we originally had proposed 200 feet, but we have since upped that to within 500 feet of the property. And we would also require 24/7 owner-operator contact information, so city staff codes would have access to those who are in charge of those properties if we need to get in touch with somebody in an emergency basis or for any reason at all. Some basic requirements that we have listed: providing off-street parking, fire safety such as smoke detectors, extinguishers, egress maps, those types of things. There are occupancy limits regulating the number of overnight guests, as well as a cap on the number of people that can gather for, like say a party or something like that. And of course, must comply with all relevant city ordinances. As far as what it would cost, we're looking to do the annual $35 business registration fee through community development. And through Visit Las Cruces, there's a one-time registration fee and a $35 annual registration fee to be part of the system that they use to track and regulate the short-term rentals. And of course, all applicable state, local, and federal taxes must be paid, and they would be required to have a New Mexico ID number, tax ID number. From an enforcement standpoint, working with legal on this, we actually mirrored it similarly to what you'll hear in the plastic bag ordinance that's coming up. And so first offense, $500 to $300 fines. Second offense, a little bit more. The city does have the authority to revoke somebody's business registration if they are habitually not complying with the rules, or if there's offenses there that require to revoke that for a particular reason. If there is a point where you get to, say, a fifth offense within a 3-year period, removal will be mandatory of a business registration. And so wrapping up next steps, we obviously adopt, if it's adopted this month, we would begin education and registration sort of outreach campaign, working with communications, making this ordinance effective in January, and then have enforcement begin in July, giving staff time to do adequate outreach to those owners and make sure we can get everybody in compliance. As you can see, there's several hundred who have listed on various third-party websites, so there will take some time to reach out to everybody and get everybody in compliance with the new rules. And your standard options apply, and I will stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Councilor Corinne?
You said me, right? Okay, thank you. I first want to thank you, Chris, and the team that are working on this, that worked on this. I have to be honest, when I was campaigning the first time around, when I ran for city council, people were asking for this particular ordinance. So thank you for getting it done. I squeaked in literally on the last day of my first term, getting it done for those folks who were asking for this ordinance. So thank you. But I do have a quick question, or sort of request. I think the biggest thing is people just want their Airbnbs to be good neighbors, and this is fundamentally about sort of systematizing that in a meaningful way. But we kind of tried to do this before, right? Sort of in a version of trying to get people to register, and that didn't seem to work. And we kind of heard about some logistical challenges, I think, last time when we talked about this at the work session. I guess what I'm hoping is one, that we have sort of made it easy, made this as easy as we possibly can for folks to get on the right side of this, right? Kind of like a lot of the folks that are currently getting permits for their carports after Realize, right? So I hope we can enable folks as much as possible to get on the right side of this, and then also do a quick inventory at some point in the next 6 months. And I'm hoping that, I don't know who all is going to be involved in this work, but to see, is this working or not, right? What is the rate of, that's about 400 folks that need kind of intense, probably, connection to get them on the registration side. So I'm hoping that we can just follow back up and see where are we in that process to make sure that we're on track, because I don't want it to be a matter of, I know that people hear information from different channels, and I'm sure that Airbnb hosts get tons of random requests and demands and all of those things. So I just want us to make sure that we're communicating effectively and really just giving people the opportunity to comply in the best way possible. So I'm hoping we can have a little check-in before, and if it doesn't seem like it's going, that we can postpone the enforcement component if required, because because we might be struggling through that communication part, I guess would be my kind of gentle ask. Not an amendment, just an ask.
Sure. Mayor, Councilor Kren, we can certainly do that. We can schedule sort of a work session check-in in maybe June. We'll work closely with Visit Las Cruces to pull the data for the current properties, do that outreach, the similar way we do for other business registrations here in town. We have staff that works directly with them to get everybody, registered. They'll register through Visit Las Cruces on their process, which it looks like it hasn't been working from the numbers, but registering with that process is, the staff's there to help them with that. I think it's just more of advocacy and letting people know what is required, and that will be on staff and working with the communications department to get that messaging out and make sure that we keep it out there over a period of time, so that it's not just out there when this ordinance passes and then people kind of forget about it. It'll be up to staff to, keep that top of mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And again, thank you for bringing this forward. I really appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chris, for the presentation. This is something that we discussed in one of our work sessions some time ago, so I'm happy to see that there is some resolution, not a resolution, but that we've come to this point. My concern has always been enforcement, and I think that there are some property owners who fly under the radar, and I was just wondering if there's any way of identifying all property owners that do use their homes, their property for short stays.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, yes, we can pull that data through the systems that Visit Las Cruces has access to, get that address information, get that owner information, reach out directly to them about the new requirements, and that'll sort of be the starting point. And there's, I think there was 483 over, that have registered or used the system. So we do have quite a number of property owners to start working with. And then from that point forward, it'll just be continuously monitoring those to make sure that they're staying in compliance and continuing communications and outreach, so anybody new interested in a short-term rental will know that there's a process that they have to adhere to if they want to sign up.
Yeah, and I think that in my district there were, or it's not my district anymore. I used to be District 6, which is now District 3. There were complaints of wild parties going on, and the neighbors finding out that it wasn't the owners, it was the tenants. And I don't think there was any registration that it was a business. So that, I think that's my concern insofar as really identifying who's doing what. But you think all of that is covered?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, I do think that having the requirement for the business registration will allow us to identify those problematic owners if there are such, and the requirements for having that contact information on staff will make it easier for us to reach out to them, or PD if it's in the middle of the night, or codes if it's some other issue. So this process, I think, will make it easier for staff to communicate with those property owners about any issues that we are seeing.
Okay, so when you have neighbors complaining and the city goes in to talk to the complainant, they'll ascertain at that point whether they're registered or not, because I'm sure a lot of them fly under the radar.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, yes, that is correct. I mean, someone could file a complaint and put us onto a property we didn't know, and then at that point in time, we would work with that property owner to get them in compliance. So yes, it could help for both those who are registered and for identifying potentially some that aren't in compliance, correct?
Good. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for your work. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Chris. The last time when we had a work session about this, there was some concerns raised with some Airbnb managers, I guess, about the system, and that it was difficult for them to navigate it. And I know that staff sort of stayed back and had that discussion with those folks. I just felt like what they were saying was very real and valid. I'm just curious if you all have addressed some of those, or if what was the miscommunication? I'm just curious.
Mayor Pro Tem, I believe some of that actually was issues with compliance with the third party, specifically, working with Airbnb to pay some of those taxes. And we were trying to work through ways that if you are, say, a property management company and you are trying to pay taxes for multiple properties, is there a way to do that through those systems, all at one time? It's not the city system. Again, it's working with some of those third-party vendors, and I know that the staff at Visit Las Cruces was trying to work through some of those issues with them. I'm sure it's not the first time those things have come up, so I know there's a couple, at least one property management company that we were discussing some of these issues with. Again, because it's not our system, I don't know if all those issues were resolved or not with those third-party vendors, but we do try to open up those conversations to see if we can resolve them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's just really important to continue to have that open communication with folks who have that kind of feedback. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, seeing no other members of the public, we'll give you a couple of minutes. Give 2 minutes.
George Pearson. As president of the Alameda Depot Neighborhood Association, we've heard of issues of where properties are being converted to short-term rentals. And especially in the historic neighborhood, it's an issue of density. So it'd be good to collect, once this data is collected, to revisit this in 6 months or a year, as was discussed, and look at what the density issues are and if we're getting too many Airbnbs too close together. And maybe we need to also distinguish between owner-occupied places that have casitas that they're renting out, because if they're still owner-occupied, that gives a different flavor to the neighborhood than if it's completely a rental. So looking forward to this being implemented and follow through on it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else, public? Okay, seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3103. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse is absent. Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes. Next is item 7.4, Council Bill number 26-012, ordinance number 3104, an ordinance amending Chapter 16, Article 11 of the Las Cruces Municipal Code, limiting the use of plastic single-use carry-out bags in certain retail operations.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mayor, councilors, Jenny Hernandez, the Sustainability Officer for the City of Las Cruces. Today, I'm going to be talking about amending the plastic bag ordinance to use the funds, some of the reserve fundings, to support other initiatives in our office. And so first, I'll give us some background context just to refresh our memory, and then go into the very specifics of what we're proposing to amend, so you can see them side to side and see what we're exactly changing in the ordinance, and then just refresh your memory on how we currently use the fees and how we're proposing to use the fees if there is an amendment to the ordinance. So the plastic bag ordinance was in effect in January 1st, 2020, and we were here on November 10th as a work session where we gave you an update. It's been about 5 years now since we've launched, and so we gave an update on how much funds we've collected, what we've done with those funds. And so here we're gonna tell you in detail exactly what we're proposing to change. But as a reminder, when you go to the store, you can no longer buy plastic bags, you can buy paper bags, and if you purchase a paper bag, it's 10 cents. 5 cents of which comes back to our office, and the other 5 cents, the grocery store or business keeps the 5 cents to help pay for those paper bags. And so, as I mentioned, we're going to go over first exactly side by side the revisions that we're making. Historically, the way that the fees could be used is specifically in the ordinance reads as dedicated to promote sustainability, public education, and the purchasing of reusable bags. So basically education around the ordinance, and then helping to provide reusable bags, and education on the ordinance in general in terms of how it's related to plastic bag use and and the environment. And so what we are proposing today is to revise the wording that specifically will read to support a wide range of initiatives that advance the goals of the city's climate action plan, including to, but not limited to, climate mitigation and adaptation, energy conservation, public education, and community engagement. Basically, to help us use the funds to help meet goals in our climate action plan. And later on down the slides, I will give you some very specific examples of what we envision to use those fees for. I do want to clarify, though, that we will still continue to use some of this funding to still promote the plastic bag ordinance and the purchase of reusable bags, because we have seen from the data that I provided in our work session in November that it is helpful for the residents to get a reminder that the bag ban still exists and the education around it, and also to support education around our businesses as we get new businesses or new owners who come in and are not familiar with the ordinance. Another major change that we're proposing is in the current ordinance, the wording for revisiting the ordinance says 2 years after execution. And so it was executed in January 2020. We came back in January 2022 to provide an update specifically on how things were going on the ordinance. However, it doesn't have any wording that says we ever had to come back ever again to council. So in the revised ordinance, we are suggesting that because we're changing it, we want to come back a year from now to give council an update on how the changes went after we've made those changes. And then given if everything went okay and there's no other amendments that need to be made, that we would come back every 3 years to revisit the ordinance. And so again, this just provides wording on us being able to provide updates more consecutively versus the current wording. The other small change that we made is streamlining the enforcement. So we want to preface by saying we have not had any major enforcement issues. The biggest issues, if you will, that we're seeing around enforcement is simply just education-wise. So we've had a lot of businesses either come in for the first time or the ownership change, and they weren't aware about the ordinance. And so once we've educated, told them where to get signed up and gave them educational materials, the enforcement issue resolved itself. And so we're just adding wording in the ordinance that makes our office the first stop if there's any issues, to just make sure everyone has adequate education and the steps that they need to follow to get signed up. And then second, after that, is just the natural and typical code enforcement that the city uses with all of the other ordinances. So mainly the thing that we're saying is we're adding sustainability as a first stop for education if there are any issues with enforcement. And so those, not a lot of changes we're making, but those are the big major changes that you'll see reflected in the ordinance. And so now I'm going to talk about what we've used, more specifically the bag fee for up to this date, and then what we are proposing to use it if the amendments go through. And so again, we were here in November as a work session where I shared in great detail some of these of how we used the fee before. And so the first thing is when we launched the plastic bag ordinance ban, we used it for educational purposes to let the public know that this was happening. And then we used it for education to the businesses on how to get signed up and registered to make sure that they could submit fees to us. And then we used it, at the time we were only a staff of 2, so we used it to pay for temporary services to help us register the several businesses that we have across the city to get signed up to submit fees. And then when if you remember a month ago, we saw that when we launched the bag fee, of course, we had that first year of revenue, and then it started to decrease the second year. But then we saw a huge spike the third year. So we relaunched a second educational campaign, which are the photos on the right, and the ads that I showed you the video of, that montage of Don't Forget About Me bag, and that's what we used these funds to pay for. So it was a second kind of reminder of the campaign that we launched. And then we've done educational events with partners across the city, like Cruces Creatives and other partners, to just remind folks that that we still have a plastic bag ban. And so this is how we've used the funds up to date because of the very specific wording that the ordinance allows us to use the funds for. And so with the amendments that we're proposing, again, to basically support helping to meet some of the goals in our climate action plan, here are some very specific things that we know we need support on, especially as we've lost funding through some of our federal grants this past year. And so the first one is an analysis for alternative financing. We're currently working on our Plugged In for Good project, which helps retrofits homes to be more energy efficient. And we've learned in this process that, yes, while we have some grant funds, we won't have grant funds forever. And so at some point, residents, if they want to participate in the program, will have to provide some kind of matching funds to our funds. However, we've learned that that is really difficult, especially in traditional ways like loans, especially right now. The interest rate is really high, and so it's just not something that's feasible for some of our residents. So we'd use some of this funding to really research and maybe even create alternative financing that would make this more accessible to some of our residents. In addition to that, we are conducting some energy audits through a partnership with DACC that is wrapping up, and we would just like to be able to continue those services later on. And then another fun project that we did not get to do this year but had funding to do it last year is called our Fix It Fairs. This is our partnership with Cruces Creative, where last year they came out to 3 different areas in the infill neighborhood, and basically you could bring your household items to get fixed or amended so that you could get a little bit more life out of them instead of buying them new all over again. So a perfect example is lamps. That was the most popular one. A lot of folks brought their lamps over, and Cruces Creatives had some folks who could help recircuit those and get those working. Another great example is sewing. So if one of your coats was missing a button, you could bring it in and get it repaired, or some minor alterations to help you give another use out of that piece of clothing. These were really popular. We saw that we had residents who didn't even live in these areas that were coming to every single one and bringing new items to repair. And so we got a lot of great feedback that said, we would love to continue having something like this. But unfortunately, this year we didn't have funds to do that, and so we're proposing to use some of the plastic bag funds to be able to provide those on a continual basis. And then last but not least, our co-op support. Currently, the ordinance allows us to pay a portion of the co-op salary for any time that is related specifically to the plastic bag ban. And so as I showed on the other side, we had co-ops help us, one, our co-op tracks the revenue fee from this and is making sure that our businesses are submitting payments and things of that nature. And so we're just asking to continue to use it for those purposes, and also some additional work that supports these other projects that are included here. And as a reminder, we will continue to use the bag fee for plastic bag education. We're just asking to use some of it for additional supportive services that are on this page. And last but not least, when we were here in November at the working session, council had a lot of great suggestions. And so we will continue to use the fees to explore the suggestions that council pointed up. The first one is exploring partnerships with the schools. That was a great suggestion to just make sure that we're hitting as much touch points in terms of educational purposes with a lot of the partnerships that we have with our schools. And then exploring restaurant plastic bag usage, so we can revisit on how we can reduce plastic bag use in restaurants. And then exploring produce bags, again related to the one above, exploring how we can reduce the plastic use of those produce bags. And then exploring cleanup support with city and city partnerships for cleaning up some of the litter across the city, and then exploring partnerships with energy audits in the future if the amendment goes through. And I believe that is the last one. So here are your standard council options, and happy to answer any questions or clarifications.
Thank you, Jenny. Councilor Flores?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much for the presentation. Can you go back one slide? Okay. So education, exploring restaurant, no, maybe it was, well, maybe it was, I don't know what it was. But at any rate, all this, you know, I grew up, I think maybe other people in the audience grew up with no plastic bags. I mean, there weren't any plastic bags. You know, if you bought some celery, you threw it into a paper bag or just put it into your shopping cart, and then it got thrown into a paper bag that you carried out. And so, you know, it seems to me that we really don't need any kind of plastic bag. I know, I mean, you buy, you know, you go to the store and you're going to buy something that you're going to use, to the market, excuse me. I'm talking about produce. And that, you know, some of that produce like cilantro and parsley, some of that just gets chopped and put into a glass and then it's, you know, okay. So I think maybe there can be some education as to how we really don't need plastic bags. You get home with your little paper bag and you take your celery or your whatever, put it in the refrigerator, wrap it in a paper towel to keep it from getting other stuff wet, y se acabó. It's that simple. So, or maybe I'm simplifying it, but you know, I think some education on how to avoid using plastic bags. I think that one area too is, you know, the hefty bags for garbage. Again, I grew up with, you know, I grew up with paper bags serving as the trash can. And I don't know, unless there were some studies that showed that all of that was detrimental. But it seems to me it would be good, you know, some of that, you know, like banana peelings and all that sort of stuff could actually be good for soil. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. And thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Flores. Anyone else? Seeing none, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3104. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse is absent. Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.5, Council Bill number 26-013, ordinance number 3105, an ordinance approving a 5-year lease agreement with the Operations and Management City-Owned Community of Hope campus located at 999 West Amador.
Move to approve.
Second, Graham.
I'm a little bit taller than Jenny. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Natalie Green for the record. The ordinance before you is approval of a lease agreement between the City of Las Cruces and the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope. Some background information: the city has owned the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope since December 1994. It started as a 7-acre parcel that was, for those of you who have been here a long time, it was a foreclosure of Woodward lumber yard. We've also had an operations and management agreement since 1994, and the campus was established for the delivery of homeless and indigent services. The last lease was approved in 2015. It was a 5-year lease with at least one 5-year extension, and it expires in a couple days or weeks, December 30th, 2025. So we've worked with independent legal counsel to handle negotiations between the city and the nonprofits and developed a lease over the last year or so. In terms of the campus, it is now has grown to a 17-acre city-owned site. Only 12.35 acres are covered by this lease. The other 5 acres are, the city is retaining ownership for the use of affordable housing. It is made up of 2 parcels. It has 5 active buildings, and it's just under 56,000 square feet of active space that's used by the agencies. It is made up of 5 alliance agencies. That includes Casa de Peregrinos, Jardín de los Niños, Mesilla Valley Community of Hope, the organization, Amador Health Center, and El Caldito Soup Kitchen. Again, some more background information. Community of Hope, The 17-acre campus is a city-owned facility. Today's action is a master lease with the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope, the agency, who will then in turn sublease to the rest of the alliance, which again is Amador Health, Casa de Peregrinos El Caldito, and Jardín de los Niños. Each of those organizations are independently operated. They have their own board of directors and executive directors and boards. The ordinance, if approved today, would approve a 5-year lease, and then it has 4 optional 5-year renewals. The city does have to review those leases every 5 years to adjust for fair market value. We did conduct an appraisal of the property. The market rent for the facility is $690,000. And so that will be paid to the city through services in lieu. So the organizations provide free services to the community in that amount or more in order to lease the facility. The lease does cover maintenance items, so Community Hope and the Alliance organizations will handle day-to-day and minor maintenance, day-to-day operations and minor maintenance, and then the city is responsible for all major systems and capital improvements. It also calls for the city to set some, to take reasonable efforts to budget for annual maintenance. As we know, deferred maintenance can be an issue at all our city facilities, so this would just be that minor maintenance that needs to happen annually. The lease also, council may remember as part of last budget cycle, they approved an FTE for the campus. Again, 56,000 square feet takes quite a bit of oversight, and so the lease also solidifies that. It does mandate that the agencies and the city continue to meet bi-monthly, and then all the alliance agencies have to provide quarterly reporting to document those services in lieu. And with that, you have your standard council options, and we'll stand for questions. And I believe the alliance agencies are in the audience. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Natalie. Councilor Grant.
Not a question, but just this is the last time that Nicole, that you and I will share the space, and all others who are here, the last time we'll share the space in this way. Thank you so much for what you do every day. I'm encouraged to see that, you know, hopefully pending this vote, obviously, that we'll continue to support you to do this vital work in the future. And I won't miss this part of it, but we'll see each other in better circumstances. Thanks.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you, and thank you. I too want to thank you, Natalie, and I see some people in the audience who head up some of the providers there for the wonderful work you provide for people in our community, and you know, and I think the work that a lot of people focus on at Community of Hope is destigmatizing people who are, you know, without a roof over their head, and not making it okay not to, but not objectifying that people in those conditions. But I do want to thank you for your work, and I hope that you continue to be, well, we as a city continue to be successful in that endeavor. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I just have one question, then a couple comments. Thank you. I know that there's been lots of internal conversations about maintenance and upkeep of the asset, if you will. Curious, Natalie, if, you know, like I really think it's important that we come to a place that works for everybody, right? For the nonprofits on the campus, for the city, and I know that that's been, you know, sort of an issue. So I know that we now have that one FTE that's assigned to the campus, but I'm curious if you can just speak to this particular issue, Natalie, and if you feel like it's, or city manager, and if we feel like it's come to a good sort of, I don't know, agreement for everybody.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, That was quite the negotiating point, both with city staff and with the agencies. And so we were able to come to a good place, I think, but I'll let the agencies speak for themselves. But definitely the FTE helps mitigate. Again, like I mentioned, it's 56,000 square feet made up of 5 different buildings, and it's very heavily used. I didn't mention that the campus sees over 1,000 people a day. And so all of the facilities get heavily used, whether it's bathrooms, showers, laundry facilities, the food and the soup kitchen. The city a couple years ago did master plan for that growth, so that also was solidified within the lease. And so that'll help outline some of those issues. And then the agencies themselves have been really proactive about going after capital outlay or other funding sources. Community of Hope just assisted the city in putting in a grant for a re-roof of their facility. So they take an active role in helping ensure that the campus is maintained and improved over the years. And then, of course, we've seen things like the new food pantry, right? That was a very significant investment that this council made to help serve the public. And then as part of the legislative priorities, you also adopted the kitchens, which will be a new soup kitchen. But all the facilities, again, the earliest one was built in 1995. Some of them were built in 2000, so they're all 20 plus years old.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, I think I just, I say this because I want the city to be good landlords, if you will. I want us to be like good caretakers of this asset that is the city's ultimately, and just want us to be good partners in that way. And then I think really just my general statements. I think, I'm obviously glad we're doing this and recommitting to being in partnership with these organizations that provide an incredible service and a necessary service to the community. I think now more than ever, unfortunately, I think it's important that we are good partners and that we remain in good partnership and supportive partnership. The current national administration is about to make some pretty serious and damaging changes to housing policy, and it's going to impact a lot of people. It's going to impact a lot of funding. And so I think now more than ever, and honestly, Councilor Graham spoke to this at the beginning, how important it is for local government to step up and to support in areas where it's going to be a lot more difficult. So I just wanted to reiterate that, and hopefully everyone on this dais and on our side can recommit to that partnership and that support. Thank you.
Okay, so anyway, was any of the members of the public wanted to speak or say anything? No? Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3105. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse is absent. Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Are we good? All right, next is board appointments. So to read into the record, Councilor Coran appoints Dr. Stephanie Hofakit. I don't know how to pronounce it. What's their name? To the Parks and Rec Board. Dr. Stephanie.
Dr. Stephanie, yes.
Okay.
I've only read it, so I'm not going to embarrass myself and say it incorrectly.
Okay, so next I will need a motion and a second for these appointments. Denise Sanchez, new appointment to the CIAC.
So moved.
Second.
This is on the motion to appoint Denise Sanchez to the CIAC. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse is absent. Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is Larry Goodwin, a new appointment to the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. We need a motion and a second.
To approve.
Second.
This is on the motion to appoint Larry Goodwin to the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse is absent. Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is proposed ordinances. There are none. Now we'll turn to City Council Board members' reports and comments. Councilor McClure.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of things to talk about. One being, if you're interested in me being a contrarian, check out the MPO from last week. I was a little bit having a hard time with one of the more routine things we had to do, where it was to say we have 400, and our target goal is to just have 445 deaths across the state this year. And that's a hard one to say yes to. Oh yeah, that's the target that we're going for. I agree that we haven't done much on Vision Zero, and I'd like to change that specifically because the roads should be safe for all users. We do want to work with the state. I mean, this was a state request and a state target. They actually came to ask if we wanted to do a Vision Zero initiative, and they had a whole plan for us. We would get a rep from transportation from Public Works, a rep from economic development, a rep for health and human services, from Community Main Street, from law enforcement, from emergency response, from schools, and an elected official to champion the work. And I can arm wrestle the mayor for that if he wants. But we also agreed on the MPO that we wanted to see that change. So I'm hoping we can work forward on that in the new year and what that would look like. And I'll send that email out again to staff that might actually push that forward. The next thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was the budget. And I think it is valuable that we talk about it in a little bit more transparent way. And I'm hoping that we talk about it more at the budget retreat, which is open to the public. Usually it is the media there, kind of skirting on the sidelines and drinking bad coffee with us. Y'all can come too, and I think you should. I've had the Friends of the Library reach out and say, hey, well, what about the bookmobile? We're worried about it. Valid. But then I could say, hey, we've encumbered that money. That already means it's fixed. But yeah, they were understandably worried. So let's talk about it a little bit more. I would also like to think that we as council should be asked a little bit much more about what our priorities were. Mayor Pro Tem at one point had said, the budget reflects our values. For example, we're still missing an active transportation planner, and I don't want that to get swept up by a hiring freeze. So I'd like to see what that would look like too. And lastly, I'm not sure I can look at you either. I have to say bye. So I'm going to date us too, because I've known Becky Graham for a long time. It's been decades, I have to say. She was, this is going to embarrass both of us, my Philosophy 101 teaching assistant. That's how long. True story, yeah. And she has continued to teach me in many ways. She actually taught me to ride horses, strangely enough. But more importantly, you taught me to lead and not to be swallowed by the fear. And you taught me to draw on our inner strength, because this job is incredibly hard. And I'm going to miss you, and thank you for being here for me specifically. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Graham.
Oh, yeah. Luckily I got to say it all at the start, so I can just kind of swallow my feelings right now. I do want to point out that this was the F-bomb heaviest meeting I've ever attended. F-bombs were up 6,000% over previous meetings, and I'm glad that I got to be here for that in person. Oh, should I make that 7,000%? No, I'm just kidding, I won't. No, a lot of you are going to be hearing from me via thank you card and stuff, because, yeah, I can't do this here and now, but thank you. Just thank you.
Councilor Curran.
Thank you. I will do an official thing first and then the sentimental thing similarly. Thank you to Becky Graham, who really led the Animal Services Center executive. Do you want to talk about this? executive director search, which has been lengthy, and thank you to all the folks who stepped up and have been covering there at the Animal Services Center. But as of this morning, the candidate Stephanie Lewis agreed to take on the position, and I attribute that. I think that I give that example both because I'm happy and we're really excited to have someone coming in, but also to speak directly to Councillor Graham's specific strengths that I have so appreciated and been so lucky to work with. What we do up here is a tiny fraction, 1/10 of all of the things that we can do as city councilors. And I will tell you that the other 90% is a logistical nightmare of getting people together, talking to people, hearing feedback, giving people answers they don't want to hear, making things happen as much as you possibly can, and then quietly advocating for, quietly or loudly, but in both cases, both you see our outside advocacy, but you don't necessarily see our other advocacy and other avenues. And Councillor Graham has done this with consistency and aplomb, and really made sure that we're all thinking extremely critically about what we're doing, and she always comes with a reference sheet, but also with the extraordinary heart that it takes to make things happen, like the boxing gym, which was closed, but when we got up, right, or sort of closed, open, but not city funded when we started on council, and now is a thriving, extraordinary place that is serving community needs in ways that are accreditable to you, Councillor Graham. So thank you and Mike, he's not here anymore, but for his background support on that front as well. So thank you, and also welcome to our new ED at the ASCMV. Again, Graham shepherded this process, which has been lengthy and complicated, and as she does, was wildly successful at it. So thank you. I can't wait to see your next wildly successful endeavors. And also, you aren't allowed to come to council for at least 6 months. I'm putting that to, you agreed to 2? We can negotiate that. Okay. Councillor Flores, thank you for shepherding me onto council as you did. I think you were one of the first councillors who met with me and onboarded me and helped me feel confident here. Also for your advocacy for people in your district who really have, you were affected by their experiences, and you brought that all the time to council, and I think that's really meaningful and important and what we all hope for in our public leaders. So thank you for that. Also, I'm a little nervous because you kept me from being the worst driver on council. And now you're leaving, so I'm worried. Driver, yeah. So, okay, I can step into a new role if that's called for. I hope one of the new guys is a terrible driver. But thank you for your leadership and showing us the way to do this. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Councilor Coran. Yeah, I think I said what I said earlier today. This is a place that everybody should experience. It's easy to be out there and say, what is this counselor talking about? Or who do these counselors think they are? And we're faced, every day with decisions that we are well aware of that will impact people's lives. That's what we do. I've been really impressed and honored to serve on this board with every single person, even the one that's always absent, whatever his name is. Hey, Bill, I'm just joking. But Cassie I've known for a few years, and I met the two Beckys, Becky I and Becky Y, here on council, and I've known Joanna for at least a decade, I think, even though she doesn't look like she's, a decade older. But and Mayor Enriquez will always have a very special place in my heart, And when my mother passed away on January 19, my friend, one of my dear friends, Shannon Reynolds, Commissioner Shannon Reynolds, and his then wife, who is since deceased, Maggie, we drove back from Santa Fe after spending a day in Santa Fe, lobbying our representatives for our needs. And lo and behold, when I arrived at home, I found that my mother had died. And it was probably the most traumatic experience I've ever had in my life. The most difficult event in my life I've ever had to live with. My friend Shannon is a good friend of our mayor's and called Eric, Chief Eric at the time. And he stood in front of the house from my house, from about 9 p.m. till about 2 a.m. or maybe 3 a.m. To keep people from coming into the house. And that included relatives, who just want to come in and do nothing. Everything was cordoned off. It becomes a crime scene. But Mayor Enriquez stayed there the whole time. And it's something I'll always be grateful for. And as did Shannon and Maggie, may she rest in peace. They stayed there too. Las Cruces has become, I grew up in Los Angeles pretty much, and then lived in the city of LA, and it's busy and you hardly know your neighbors. Well, we did our little community there, but Las Cruces is really, Las Cruces just has such a feel for community, and everybody I have met, I've been blessed to see that he, she, they really care about the city, and that extends to everyone here who works at the city, the people in our community, such as our audience who comes in and sometimes may say things that might hurt us, but it's like water off my back, when you go through life for several decades and have teenage boys that grow into men and all that sort of stuff. But I feel that it is a community, and people who do come and complain, maybe not very nicely sometimes, do point out where we can improve. There's just so many other things I can say, but I feel an affinity and a closeness to each and every one of you. The staff here, the directors of the departments are beyond words, quite talented, quite skilled. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have served with my fellow elected officials up here. And I have to say that Ikani, our city manager, by the way, we're his boss. So if you need to complain about anything, well, don't call me anymore. I'm not his boss after today. But he is par excellence, as the French would say. And we've been blessed with our city attorney and our city clerk, who's #1 in the nation, #1 in New Mexico. I have to say that. And then our attorney, he's #1 in our hearts. No. But anyway, and each and every one of you, I'm going to miss George especially, and then I'll be in Las Cruces for maybe another 6 months, and then be moving on to Europe, where my sons live. But it's been an honor, definitely an honor to have served on the city council with my colleagues and for the city, for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flores. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Mayor. That was really beautiful, Councilor Flores. I have some comments I want to make for both of you, but first want to say two additional things. Just one joyful one. I went to the staff luncheon last week and just was, first of all, really impressed by your cooking skills. The food was delicious. The city manager, the assistant city managers behind the grill, they just looked like they were in the zone. And everyone in the city manager's office, from our executive assistants that were helping, and it was just really beautiful. So I know that things aren't always perfect and difficult, but that was just really a nice little glimpse, and I was very, very surprised by your cooking skills. So good job, everybody. Grilling skills. God knows I don't go in front of a grill. I also wanted to address some of the feedback that was received here today. You know, last week when I said what I said, I debated saying it because I knew this would happen. Like, I knew this is what was going to happen today. And I said it anyway because it felt important to me to voice the very real concerns that I have. And it's not just me that has them, right? So I know that sometimes when we're here, this very much is an echo chamber. And so you hear it here, and so it must be the truth all over the city. And that's not necessarily true, right? Like, I have conversations with people outside of this. This isn't really a conversation, right? But I have conversations with people outside of this chamber all the time. And I have to tell you that a lot of people have voiced these concerns to me as well. And I think particularly the concerns that were voiced to me by many folks after the video of our chief with the U.S. attorney, that a lot of people felt very concerned about. And I think it's important that we talk about those things and that I voice those concerns. And I know that what I'm about to say will create even more ripples of controversy, but again, it's important since that was the big topic of conversation today. Chief Story is, you know, I think he has chosen to act in a very public role, in a kind of a political role, and with that does come feedback and criticism, like we experience it. And I think it's okay for people to voice it. I understand it's uncomfortable. I understand that tension is uncomfortable. I will continue to build and cultivate a relationship with all of our staff, with our city manager, especially, not in spite of, especially when there is tension and concern. My biggest fear is that these kinds of things continue to feed this story of misinformation that says this council, and particularly me, is not supportive of a police department. When you can go back 6 years and look at my track record of voting, and you can say very much know that that's not true. And if you look at our budget as a whole, the majority of revenues that come into the city, a giant majority of those go toward the police department. I think we can all agree here that the police department is well funded. And when we continue to have these kinds of, like, they have priorities and there's these priorities different, it feeds into that narrative that frankly isn't true. Also, I just want to say that, you know, somebody here said that, you know, you feel safe with the police. There's people in our community who don't. There's young people who look more like me that protested over the summer at an immigrant rights rally and protest where they saw what felt like snipers on a roof. They don't feel safe. And it's okay to acknowledge that. It's important to acknowledge those stories too. Just today, I had an elderly woman who wanted to share with me some concerns that she's having in her neighborhood and a very unsavory interaction she had with a neighbor. And she said, as an older woman, I don't feel comfortable calling the police. Those things exist in our community. I understand we don't want to acknowledge them, and I understand it's uncomfortable when I do, but it is important to have those conversations. Okay. Moving on. I just wanted to say to Councilor Flores that I'm just so grateful to know you. I've known you since I was a little baby community organizer when I was on the other side, so maybe it's some karmic retribution. but I've known you much longer when I was back there and working with you to actually build the very first welcoming city resolution back in 2017. And people like you and Olga Pedrosa, may she rest in peace, I think are trailblazers in our community. And I just want you to know that I hold you in that kind of esteem as well. Councilor Graham and I have known each other for a very long time. We were on a very terrible soccer team together many years ago, and we had a lot of fun. But honestly, there's a lot of parallels because we had a 1-11 record. We won one game, but we had so much fun. And it kind of felt like that sometimes the last 4 years, where our record felt like it was just lose all the time. It just felt like there was no winning. But I want to reframe that for you today before you leave, because there was a lot of winning in the last 4 years, and you've made a very big impact. You've been part of a historic all-women city council. You helped make historic investments in housing. You helped create Realize. And I think, and I hope that one of your proudest achievements is helping the entire council understand the importance of POW. And I want you to know that that will continue to be something that at least I champion, and I know other people on this council will champion, because you have shown us the power that it has and why it should be preserved and protected. So thank you both very much. Councilor Corrin, welcome back. 2 more years together. So thank you very much. Every part of me right now wants to drop an F-bomb, but as I do every council meeting, we'll hold back. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And again, to Councilor Graham and Councilor Flores, thank you for all that you've done. You're truly going to be missed. I'll miss you both. Thank you for all your work and your support. Yeah, there's a few things that I want to mention. I want to look back at, we had our tree lighting on December 6th, and I just want to thank Parks and Rec and all the city staff that were out there and put it together. There was over 5,000 people there. It was a great event, a great turnout, a great way to gather and start the holiday celebration. So thank you all for that. Yesterday, there was a Hanukkah celebration as well. It was well attended, and with things going on throughout the world, they felt like this is a place where you can be safe and celebrate your faith and your beliefs. And so that was a good event as well. On Friday, I was invited to the awards ceremony for the 4-H Club. And they have over 360 students that are participants in the 4-H Club. I know that we are always looking and thinking and being creative with our Parks and Rec and how to do things to better our community, get our youth involved, and do those type of things. And the 4-H's, it stands for the head, the heart, the hands, and health. And they do so many different activities, and I know from farm animals to leathering to sewing to artwork to crafts, but keeping these kids involved and helping them learn leadership and critical thinking is of such value to our community. So I mention this because I want our Parks and Rec to take note when we're looking at activities. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's already a process, there's already a system, and there's so many volunteers in our community that are willing to give back and share with the community. So I look forward to doing things like that for our community. Last week we had our first strategic coalition meeting that was held. We had 2 meetings, one internal, one external with stakeholders. This is the grant money that the governor gave us for coalition to build on homelessness, mental health, and substance abuse. So it was very productive. We had about 30 individuals show up to that meeting, and we will continue to move forward. I think the next steps is NMSU is going to put 3 of their departments together and see which one can help with a survey. We'll go out in the streets, come back, and start putting a strategic plan on how we're going to combat this. And that's something that I look at, and something that I advocated for with our governor to get this kind of funding and grants so that we can really address the situation that is hindering our community. because I'm going to say it, I disagree somewhat with Mayor Pro Tem when we talk about public safety. I was a firefighter. I took an oath. I went through a police academy. I took an oath to protect and to serve. And I know that Chief Story and his department feel the same way. When Chief Story gets criticized for what I believe is doing his job, I have to take a stance as well and say, thank you for protecting and serving our community. And if it's an issue of being an employee or an elected official, I will say it right now for the record, I will be that elected official that will speak on behalf of public safety. So, thank you. I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Enriquez, Mayor Pro Tem Coleman, City Council, County Tamaulipas, City Manager. Thank you for your time. Just wanted to share a quick update on Velo. Appreciate Velo coming out to share their support for Target Vision Zero, which for those that may not be following what that is essentially a commitment and a plan for municipalities to buy into, which is eliminating any traffic fatalities or serious injuries. And I just want to share from staff perspective and from council, it is a very important it is a very important goal to have. Where we are as staff is we've asked, we're talking with council and asking them that what we don't want to do is have an unfunded mandate, because what this means to eliminate zero fatalities, although it is our desire and our goals to have that always, there is infrastructure needs that has to happen, and we have to make sure our infrastructure needs are there first, which we're making steps to get there, and we'll present back to council. Before we do, we appreciate staff. There was a goal of setting out towards a grant, which was funded about $500,000 for a Safe Streets for All plan. This is the first step for us before we come to council to see your appetite for our Vision Zero. We just went to RFP. That was concluded just a few weeks ago, and now we're looking to wrap that up so that we can complete the Safe Streets for All. So first, we'll do the Safe Street for All grant, which will incorporate many of the elements that Vision Zero will have, and then phasing, the next phase will be coming to you as council for Target Vision Zero. Just want to give you all an update. Thank you. Update for utilities. Congratulations to our utilities department, as the awards committee of the New Mexico Water and Wastewater Association has selected the East Mesa Water Reclamation Facility to receive a distinguishing award. The Good Housekeeping Award for activated sludge wastewater treatment plant for 20 years and under. This has been the award for them. So there will be a banquet at Hotel Encanto Wednesday, January 28th at 7 p.m. So congratulations to the Utilities Department. Parks and Recs, registration is currently ongoing for the city's winter break camp, open to students K through 5th grade. Scheduled to coincide with the upcoming school break, the camp will run from December 22nd through January 2nd, operating 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Program sites include Jornada Elementary and East Mesa Rec Center. Participants will enjoy a variety of activities and social events with breakfast and lunch provided, and this only costs $20. So if you're interested, please jump on our website or call our Mershite Rec Center, and we can get you all that information. So thank you to our Parks and Rec team running that. The city is excited to also announce that the start of public input process for the future of Bike Park to be located at the East Mesa Recreation Complex is upcoming. This new facility is currently slated to feature a skills course, pump track, and mountain biking course, among other elements. To kick off this process, city representatives will be present at the farmers market on Saturday, December 20th. We invite all residents to attend and provide value feedback regarding the design and utilization of this exciting project. And last, for Parks and Rec, our recreation facilities will close early at 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and will remain closed on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. We'll reopen Friday, December 26th, with shortened operating hours at the Regional Aquatic Center Natatorium in Mershite. We encourage all residents to check the website and social media. Economic Development Safety Improvement Program kicked off in the beginning of November as the first pilot program created specifically for the metropolitan MRA area. This program allows for a grant of up to $5,000 for security upgrades and is focused on El Paseo Solano MRA. In just over a month, we have received 14 eligible applications, which will approximately be about 70% of the funds set aside for the fiscal year. And communications, one of the priorities, exciting news, has been to include our Spanish speakers. So we are happy to announce that residents can now watch city council meetings with live Spanish closed captioning as an option. The communications team tested some software as a pilot project earlier this year and have now installed this feature permanently. Residents can turn on live Spanish closed captioning on Comcast or watch Spanish captions on YouTube after a meeting has ended. A quick how-to video was released on social media at the end of last week to share with residents how to turn this feature on. And last, I would like to turn my attention to Councilor Graham and Councilor Flores. As the audience and the public and elected officials can understand, it's very difficult to have 7 bosses. And you, Councilor Graham, and Councilor Flores has made it very easy. And so I am going to miss your guidance and your relentless zeal to represent your districts. And to all those who live in their districts, I can attest that they were always doing everything they could to support residents throughout the city, but also in the districts. And I can confirm that through emails and phone calls and texts that they have reached out to me. So we are going to miss your support from the dais, and I'm going to personally miss your support as well. But we'll continue to, we'll obviously continue to be here in town if you need us, and if you move abroad internationally, stay in touch as well. But thank you so much. Appreciate you. That is all.
Okay, so Councilor Graham, Councilor Flores, can we get a motion and a second to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. This is on the motion to adjourn the meeting. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse is absent. Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
No.
For
She
the
wants to stay
record,
forever. Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes.